Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. This is a woman chess grandmaster, Atusa Purkashian, and today I'm going to show you how you can checkmate your opponent in just 3 moves. Yes, you heard me right. You can checkmate in chess in just 3 moves. So in this video, I'm going to show you 3 different checkmate. I'm going to start with 2-move checkmate, which is the shortest checkmate in chess in the history of chess, which we call it fool's mate. And then I'm going to show you 3-move checkmate, and at the end we're going to look at 4-move checkmate, which is scholar's mate. So if you want to know how to beat your friend at your office, or if you have a family member who plays chess and you want to beat them so quickly, just stick around and watch until the end of this video, so you will beat them very quickly next time you play them. So let's start with the first checkmate, which is fool's mate. And if you want to do fool's mate in 2 moves, you should be black. So I'm going to flip the board. You are playing as black. But notice that this checkmate is against someone who's an amateur and who's not good at chess. You know, it's really rare that you can checkmate in 2 moves, although 3 or 4 moves are more, possible. But I'm gonna show you the 2-move checkmate first anyway. So white starts with g4, which is not a great move because usually we want to control the central squares. But after g4, you can play e5. The idea is to open up your queen and your bishop. And if white moves the pawn to f3, which is a terrible move, you can checkmate in just 1 move. You can move your queen to h4, the king is trapped, and the game is over. The king is checkmated. So you checkmated the king in just 2 moves. Notice that the pawn on f3 is blocking the knight, but also it opens up this diagonal against the king. So as a general rule in chess, we don't want to open up the lines against our king. We usually want to castle, and we don't want to expose our king. Why? Because the king is the most important piece and you want to checkmate the king. So it's better to castle as soon as possible and make sure that your king is safe. Okay, let's look at 3-move checkmate now. If you want to do 3-move checkmate, you can do it as white. So basically it's the same strategy. Let's say you move your pawn to e5, black plays g5, you move your second pawn to d4, black plays f6, and then you can play queen h5 checkmate. So this is 3-move checkmate. It's exactly the same way that black checkmated white. But also notice that if black pushes the pawn to f5, we can checkmate the king in the same way. We do not need to take the pawn here, guys. Don't take a free pawn. You have a better move. You can play queen h5 check. We have a quote from the second world champion, Emanuel Lasker. He said that when you see a good move, look for a better one. So e takes f5 here is a good move, but you have a better move which leads to a checkmate. So queen h5 is a checkmate. Another thing that I want to tell you guys about fool's mate is that, let's say if white moves the pawn to f3 and black plays e5, here if white moves the pawn to, let's say, b3 or knight c3, black cannot move the queen to h4 in order to checkmate the king. The queen can move to h4, but this is just a check. It's not a checkmate because white can simply block the queen. So just keep that in mind, that if you want to checkmate, this pawn has to be moved to b4, so he can't, move back to g3, and after queen h4, it's just a checkmate. Okay, let's move forward and look at the most famous checkmate in chess, which is 4-move checkmate. and we call it also scholar's mate. And the good thing about scholar's mate is that you can get it in your games. If you're playing against someone who's not good at chess, you can definitely try this checkmate. Fool's mate, it's kind of hard to get because your opponent needs to play really badly, but scholar's mate is definitely possible to get. Okay, for scholar's mate, you're playing as white. So I'm going to flip the board. You start with e4, and then black plays e5. Black does the same thing. Black is controlling the center as well. Then you can play queen h5. Let me go back and explain this position a little bit for you guys. The weakest square in chess at the beginning of the game is the pawn on f7 for black and the pawn on f2 for white. Why? Because the king is protecting it. The king is the only defender here for the pawn. The same here. The pawn on f7 is just protected by the king, right? If you want to checkmate the king, you need to get to f7 to checkmate the king. So in scholar's mate, we want to go for this pawn. We want to attack this pawn. So you start with your pawn in front of the king. You push your pawn 2 squares. Black does the same thing. And then you can move your queen to h5. Another tip for you guys. If you are playing against a good player, you do not want to play queen h5. Why? Because it's not a good idea to move your queen too early into the game. Your queen is the most powerful piece. And if you move her too quickly, she can get attacked by your opponent's pieces. And it's not a good idea to lose a lot of tempos or times with your queen. So if you're playing against someone who's not a good player, you can try this move, because basically you're setting up a trap for your opponent and he may fall for it. Okay, so after queen h5, you're attacking 3 pawns, but notice that just one of them is unprotected. So you want to take the pawn on e5. The pawn on h7 is protected by the rook. The pawn on f7 is protected by the king. So right now you have a threat. Your threat is to take the pawn on e5. Black needs to protect this pawn. Let's say black moves the knight to c6. After knight c6, you want to play bishop c4. Why? Because now both of your pieces are attacking the weakest pawn or weakest square in chess, which is f7. And now black needs to be careful. Black needs to play g6 or queen e7 or queen f6 to protect the pawn. Of course, g6 is the best move here for black, but let's say if black makes a mistake and black moves the knight out to f6 to attack our queen, now white can checkmate the king in just one move. I want you guys to pause the video and find the checkmate for white. How can white checkmate the king in just one single move? Yes, the correct move here is queen takes f7. Notice that the bishop is protecting the queen, so the king can't take the queen, and the king can't move to e7 because the queen is covering this square. So this is a checkmate. And if instead of moving the knight out, black plays something else like bishop c5, or even if he pushes the pawn to attack our bishop, we don't want to take a free pawn. We want to checkmate the king instead, right? Queen takes f7 is a checkmate. Another thing that you need to remember is that if, let's say, he pushes the pawn, bishop takes f7 is not a checkmate because the king can escape. But when you take with the queen is covering e7 as well. So this is scholar's mate or 4-move checkmate. I want to show you guys the defense against this checkmate because you may get this position as black. So here after bishop c4, you can play g6. You're attacking the queen. And if the queen goes to f3, you need to be careful because let's say if you attack the queen here, white can still checkmate the king. This is 5-move checkmate, but same strategy. White is attacking the pawn on f7. So here the best move for black is to move the knight to f6. And let's say if white plays d3, you want to develop the bishop to g7. Once you push this pawn to g6, you create some weaknesses around the king side. So the darker squares are more vulnerable here. That's why you want to keep your bishop in g7, which we call it a fianchetto bishop. If the bishop goes to c5, sometimes white can play bishop h6, and this bishop is covering the diagonals. So not only white has a threat of bishop g7, but also black king can't castle because we cannot castle through check. And I hope you guys know about castling rules. If you don't know, please write me in comments, and I will make you a video about this rule in chess. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This video was about checkmating your opponent very quickly in the opening, and I hope you will win your future games very quickly like this. And please write me in comments if you have any suggestions for my next videos. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel so you won't miss any of my videos. Thank you very much. Have a beautiful day or night wherever you are. I will see you soon. Take care.